joy. I wish you grace. I wish you miracles all over this place. Happy, merry everything. Happy, merry everything. Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome, welcome, welcome to Daring Dialogues. I'm your host today, Shante Charles, and we are at season 17, episode 26. And this is going to be our last live stream for Daring Dialogues of the year. I hope that you have been enjoying these dialogues. I hope that you've been enjoying the readings and the discussions that we've been having this year. This is Get Free Friday, and we are going to just be covering health today. Last week we covered wealth. Today we are covering health, and we are reading from Live Nourished, Make Peace with Food, Banishing Shame, Body Shame, and Reclaiming Joy. I think that these are all important statements, especially around the holidays and especially coming into our new year. That as we are making changes, as many people are taking on resolutions, as people are taking on reclamation projects, to keep in mind these things about living your life in a nourished way, making peace with food, especially around the holidays, banishing body shame, again, especially around the holidays, and reclaiming your joy. So, first off, I want to just say thank you if you have been a part of the broadcast, if you've come in and listened, if you have shared the broadcast out, if you have liked, if you have subscribed. This year, we were able to hit our 1,000 followers goal, and we are looking to continue to increase our followers in a very healthy, robust, and integrous way. We are not buying followers. Um, we are just thankful for those who have chosen to come and hear, listen, and learn and share this broadcast out. We are a read aloud broadcast, which means we are fact based, evidence based, research based, book based. We believe in the power of reading. We believe in the power of literature. Um, and as I always say, it's an anonymous quote, um, but life changing ideas have always come to me through books. And so, part of what we do here, I sort of kind of have dubbed us as the Reading Rainbow for adults. A part of what we do here is we share various readings and books and topics so that you and I can be well versed in various subjects and things that are going on and happening in our world, and that we're taking it from a position of facts and truth and data and evidence and receipts and research. All right. So most of what we read here is nonfiction. All right. I know there are other podcasts out here that read, fiction works, but our focus primarily is nonfiction. So again, this is the book we're reading from today and have been reading for some weeks now. We are in the chapter entitled Elitism of Health and Wellness, and she is ending this chapter talking about processed foods. You're going to have a lot of food purists probably in the next couple of weeks as we are winding down the year going into the new Gregorian calendar year. You're going to probably run into some food purists, whether that's around the table with your family. You're going to run into people that disparage processed foods. But today we're going to be hearing from a nutritionist who guides people's diets, and they're going to be talking about what are processed foods, anyways. I know when my family and I were going through transitions and when we were unhoused, we utilized processed foods to stay alive. Um, it was not, some of the choices were not necessarily the best choices, but they were still nourishing. And I think she's going to get into that a little bit. Um, that we really do have to be mindful and understand the position that people are in. We have to be mindful of things like food deserts. Um, and somebody said, well, we're not necessarily going to call them food deserts. We're going to call them food apartheid areas. There's areas in our country where people don't have large accesses to fresh fruit, fresh vegetables, and in those communities, there are lots of processed food places in place. And so, yeah, you are going to see a difference in nutrition. You're going to see it all the way down to the children, to the child level. And then you compact that with what may be happening at schools, whether they're access to free lunch and all of that. So you are going to see some disparities. And she makes the case here in her work about how processed foods, the way we have talked about them in the past, is not necessarily fully accurate. So we're going to read today, what are processed foods anyway? And she's going to get into that, how to utilize processed foods, and go from there. And good morning to those of you who are coming in. Here we go. What are processed foods anyway? If allowed, people are intentional with their choices. According to the Food Industry Association in 2021, 58% of shoppers were influenced by the healthfulness of a food product, and 43% said that it's important for a food and beverage to include only a few ingredients. And in 2020, 49% looked for minimal processing. All right, 49%. Give me 1 second. All right. This isn't a surprise, given how popular headlines that discuss processed foods, how bad they are, and how to cut back and detox from them are. Nothing scares the wellness community more than the word processed. And you will usually see social media posts and headlines about how processed foods must be avoided at all costs. But what is so terrifying about processed foods? The truth is that nearly everything we eat is processed to some degree, meaning that unless you go to an apple orchard and pick the apple from the tree and eat it right there, you are eating some measure of processed food. Processed simply means that the food has been manipulated in some way, which does not necessarily make it bad or unhealthy. This can include fruits and vegetables that were sprayed and packaged in preparation for travel to stores, bagged spinach and salads, and of course, boxed and canned foods. The NOVA classification, which was developed by Brazilian nutrition researcher Carlos Monteiro, classifies foods into four groups according to their level of processing. The ranking and level of processing goes as follows. Now, if you're a person who is big on figuring out what to do about how much processed food you're eating, this conversation is definitely for you. So lean in and listen to the groups. Group number one, unprocessed or minimally processed foods, which include fresh and frozen fruits and vegetables, grains, meats, eggs, legumes, and nuts and seeds. Processing in this group means the removal of inedible parts and does not add substances to the original form. I think most of us are probably eating something from group one, all right? In your regular grocery store, your Aldi's or your Giant, or your Lidl or your Safeway, your Publix, your Winn-Dixie, depending on what region of the country you're in, your Wegmans, your Harris Teeter, you got your group one. Group two, processed culinary ingredients, which include oils like olive oil, coconut oil, animal fats like butter, maple syrup, sugar, and honey. These are substances from group 1 foods that have been processed through pressing, refining, grinding, etc. And I would venture to say most of us have something from group 2 in our cabinets right now. Group 3, Processed foods, which include canned vegetables, fruit, meat, fish, cheese, bread, wine, beer, and cider. The processing in this group includes foods from groups 1 or 2, with the addition of oil, salt, or sugar by means of canning, pickling, smoking, curing, or fermentation. And then there's group 4. This is the group that most of us try to stay out of. Ultra processed foods, which include sugar sweetened beverages, sweet snacks, reconstituted meat products like your bolognas and deli meats, pre prepared frozen meals, canned soups, chicken nuggets, and ice cream. Now, just even from what I just read there, you can tell most urban communities are in group 4. The problem is when you don't have anything of option from group 1. All right. In reading this, I'm sure that you noticed here that you're thinking group 4 sounds like something to be avoided simply at all costs, but we know that's not realistic. Okay. Processing in this category includes extraction and chemical modification. The end product contains very little food that is intact from group 1. So, group 4 is a processed food that contains additives, like she said, chemical modification. There are lots of negative connotations with group 4, but let's dig deeper. Let's say you are a vegan and you avoid animal products. Many products that would appeal to you, such as plant based meat alternatives, plant based milks, fall into group 4 category. Does that make you unhealthy? Does that mean that you should change your preference of avoiding animal products? Absolutely not. Or to even get more drastic, let's say you or someone close to you is in the hospital and requires short term tube feeding. Therapeutic fortified nutrition formula for survival falls into group 4. Are we going to say take them off of the tube feeding? Absolutely not. And for an everyday example, say you are a working parent, or better yet, just a busy adult. Life happens, and sometimes that means packaged or frozen meals are the quick and easy way to nourish yourself. Yet all of these foods fit into group 4. Should you stop nourishing yourself? You get the idea, right? There are many reasons why people choose the foods they do, whether they are packaged, canned, frozen, or fresh. Food choices are very individualized and depend really on availability and access, because some people have availability, but they don't have access, or they don't have means of transportation to get to those in group 1. There is no one size fits all. But the reality is that for many people, these foods are the only accessible means of nutrition, and they shouldn't be made to feel worse about what they have in front of them to eat. Because honestly, almost all food has nutrition. Although we are told over and over again to only ever eat fresh organic produce, when you compare organic fresh beans with a can of green beans, for example, you will see very little difference in the nutrients. The word process causes mass panic, but according to the American Society for Nutrition, processed foods can provide sustenance to American diets because they contribute to food security, ensuring that sufficient food is available, and nutrition security, ensuring that food quality meets human nutrient needs. The ASN also notes that food processing techniques such as enrichment and fortification can add essential nutrients. So, what do these words mean? We hear them all the time, but what do these words mean? Enriching means adding the original nutrient back into the processed food. And fortifying means adding nutrients that would not have been there in the first place. Doesn't really sound like a bad thing, does it? Processed foods don't really need to be scary, but we have made them so. We choose the foods we eat for a variety of reasons. We don't just eat based on nutrients that food provides. Affordability is one of those reasons, as many struggle to simply access food at all, let alone nutrient dense options. Millions of Americans live in a food desert, which is a term used to describe societal inequity in access to food. It exists when at least a third of the population lives farther than 1 mile away from a supermarket for urban areas or greater than 10 miles away for a rural area. Now, I have lived in an urban area, and I have lived suburb, and I have lived rural, and there is a huge and striking difference um, for the closeness of what you have access to. So think about that. If I am in a urban area and I live farther than a mile away from a supermarket, I do have a chance to possibly get on a bus and get to a supermarket. Whereas in a rural area, I know the rural area that I lived in, they did not have a bus and transit system out where we were. So it was, you definitely needed a car to live there, or you needed to know somebody who had a car, or you better have some way of getting there and being able to connect with your local space. And I think the closest one to us at the time was like a Harris Teeter, and then further out was a Walmart. So the Walmart was actually farther than the Harris Teeter. Okay, so thinking about that in terms of a food desert, by this definition, 19 million Americans have limited access to a grocery store or a supermarket. Now, compare that to where I am now. I can count um, within a 2 mile range. We have a local neighborhood grocer who's been here, I think, for like 30, 40 years. We have a Weiss, we have a Lidl, and I'm just thinking in my mind, we have a Giant, and we have a Target for people who still go there to the one for groceries. That means I have access within a 2 mile range of five different options to do my, oh, and an Aldi's, that's six. Six grocery options within a 2 mile range in the suburbs. Six, not one, not two, six options, right? So it would be crazy for me to be lecturing people about food choices and eating right and all this other stuff when I have six options and they have one or two. Make sense? But yet people get online and do it all the time. Every race in the country faces hunger. Every race, every ethnicity in this country faces hunger. But systemic racial injustice means that African American, Black American, Latinx, and Native American communities or indigenous communities are particularly prone to food insecurity and most frequently live in so called food deserts, though the more accurate term, as we said earlier, is food apartheid. Coined by activist and farmer Karen Washington, the phrase food apartheid asks us to look at the root causes of inequity in our food system on the basis of race, class, and geography. Washington states, let's face it, healthy fresh food is accessible in wealthy neighborhoods, while unhealthy food abounds in poor neighborhoods. Now, for years, I started testing this out. I would go to my local urban community grocery store and I would look around. Dim lights, food not being properly put up in the fresh food areas, not being properly preserved, um, not very well maintained overall in the store. Some items hard to find, some items not there at all, some goods on the shelves expired from even their canned date. Okay. And then I would go to the other side of town, same brand, same grocery store chain, and you would see a whole different world. Now, this was especially true when I lived in Florida, um, and I would go to the Publix shopping stores there. Most of you live in Florida, you know about Publix. And I would see the vast difference between what the Publix on one side of the community was offering basis the um, versus the Publix on the wealthier side of town. So because I had a car and a vehicle and I had access, not just availability, I could drive to the other side of town and say, "Hey, I want to go to this side of town because the fruit over here is fresher." That made a difference. If you don't have a car or you have limited access to transportation, right? That makes it a little bit harder. And then somebody might say, well, what about DoorDash or what about, Instacart or these other companies now? Well, you have to think back. We didn't have all of that not even a decade ago. There weren't this there wasn't this plethora of options that you had for people to go in and pick your groceries and deliver them to your door. A lot of that began to pick up momentum once we hit the pandemic, right? And even with that, there's still a level of wealth that you have to be able to do that regularly, right? You got to pay for that. You got to tip and all these other things. So that's another added cost on just getting your groceries. So think about that. All right. Food apartheid underscores that this is the result of decades of discriminatory planning and policy decision. Like affordability, accessibility is also a determining factor for our food choices. This can refer to the distance needed to travel for groceries, but also how accessible a food is to make or open. Many packaged or canned foods are simply easier to manage for those with disabilities. Now, I don't have a disability when it comes to like opening stuff, but I don't know about you, but I've noticed that the packaging around food has become harder and harder to open. Even with buying, some orange juice or something like that. I think what was the company? What is the company? Tropicana, I believe. Their tops on their orange juice is almost like trying to break something out of prison. And I stopped buying their orange juice because it was so hard for me to open. I said, I'm not going to be doing this every time I have to open some juice. I'm going to find me another brand that's easy to open, that has a seal inside, etc. All right. So listen to this. Many packaged or canned foods are easier to manage for those with disabilities. 61 million people in the United States live with a disability. You would think that the people who are designing these packages would keep that in mind when they're designing. About 13.7% have a mobility disability, meaning walking or climbing stairs can be difficult, which means it may be difficult to go shopping, a challenge that needs to be considered when discussing food access. Around 10.8% have a cognitive disability, which makes concentrating, remembering, and decision making difficult. And those folks need something quick and easy to put together in order to get nourishment. So when you think about access, it's not just about how to get there, but it's also what's going on with your food choices when you do get to the store. Um, a person who needs something very quick to access and eat doesn't need 15 instructions on the back of on the back of the package to figure out how to eat it. If you look at more packages now, I'm starting to pay more attention to that. The instructions are larger. Sometimes they now have visuals on the back to help people who may not have the literacy that they need in order to open it up and get started. 6.8% have difficulty doing errands alone, which means they need some sort of assistance, either grocery pickups, delivery. Some of us are assisting our elders with going to the grocery store. I know when I was younger, when I would come home from college and breaks, my grandmother would give me a list. Before there was a DoorDash, most of us were playing DoorDash to our elders. They would give you a list. They would say, pick this up, don't get this brand, get this brand. If they don't have it, leave it there, etc. You come back, you bring the stuff to them. So 6.8% have difficulty doing errands alone. These tasks include, but are not limited to, shopping, cooking, and food prep, which includes opening packages. There are different types of packaging that makes things easier to open and access. When it was originally marketed, Whole Foods was trolled by some internet users for selling peeled oranges in a container. But it had a purpose. Folks who have trouble with fine motor skills benefited from those already peeled fruits. Not to mention that many processed foods are often easier to swallow and digest for some folks. Americans are particularly stigmatized for consuming ready made packaged foods. There's the stereotype that America is so unhealthy because our food consumption. Let's rethink this. Bear with me. Packaged foods provide convenience. Now, why might Americans in particular need more convenience than other countries? Let's look at our work life schedule here in the United States, or should I say, lack thereof. We are very much a hustle culture. Now, hopefully, as we go into 2026, people are trying to get out of the hustle and they're trying to get out of the grind. Adults have packed schedules. Not everyone feels like making a meal from scratch, wanting instead something that saves time, so they turn to packaged foods. Now, I would tell you, um, I make some great meals. Most of, I would say, probably about 90% of what I eat now comes from my kitchen, meaning I have cooked it myself. When I do eat out, we do eat out, but the majority of our eating during the week, most of the time, except on holidays, is at home cooking. And I will tell you, I enjoy some of these pre prep things. For example, I used to get a fresh bell pepper, get a fresh onion, rinse my onion, chop, 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 use it for cooking. Now I look for pre cut onions, pre cut peppers. Why? Because that's cutting down on my prep time. When it comes to chicken, I'm usually looking for pre washed chicken, pre cut chicken, packaged, frozen, pre cut chicken. Why? Because it cuts down on my prep time. So I do have some regular chicken that if I have more time and I want to thaw it out and go through all that whole process, I can. I know how to do it, right? But then there are certain things that just helps to cut down on your meal prep time, especially if you are a busy household and you are a large household. Don't let people shame you because you use things that help you to cook down on your prep time, cut down on your prep time. All right. So let's unpack this some more. Work life harmony, she uses balance, I'm going to say harmony, refers to how someone achieves harmony in both their professional and personal life. What can happen if someone doesn't have a healthy work life harmony? Burnout can occur, and that stress is one of the most forgotten contributors that can impact our overall health. What are some examples of this in action? Burning the midnight oil, even if you've left the office, coming home, and then working another 4 to 5, 6, 7, 8 hours. Only 24% of employees report never checking email after hours. So 76% of people are still checking in on work after they are off the clock. That is very American. So if you're technically working after hours, do you have time to prepare a meal from scratch? Chances are no. Further, 48% of Americans consider themselves workaholics. This is not good. America is one of just 13 countries that do not guarantee paid time off for workers. How many times have you gone on vacation and actually logged off? Better yet, how many times have you gone on vacation and your boss is still calling you, emailing you, saying, I know you're on vacation, but I just have this one question. I know you're on vacation, but can you send this one email? How many times were you fully present in where you were and what you were doing when you were not in the office? And there are more statistics. Around 94% of workers in the professional service industry work over 50 hours a week. Now, keep in mind, people's wages are not keeping up with the number of hours they're working. Considering a regular work week is about 40 hours, that percentage is incredibly high. Let's throw in the idea that you maybe are responsible for young children. Again, I ask, are you thinking of making a meal from scratch? That box of hamburger helper may get more and more appealing. We tend to compare and contrast our lives and our health status here in the US to other countries. But the failing grade we give ourselves is real. It doesn't just boil down to what we are and are not eating. We are comparing ourselves to countries that actually celebrate food, not just for its nutrients, but for its social aspects. We're comparing ourselves to countries that give paid time off. We're comparing ourselves to countries that give men and women maternal leave. We are comparing ourselves to countries that take siestas in the middle of the day. In many European countries, businesses close during lunch hours to give their employees proper time to prepare food and eat with their families. Game changer. We could never imagine this in the US because the US does not prepare for it. Further, many other countries have a healthcare system that guarantees care and supports mental health. They don't see it as something to be swept aside or ignored for the hustle and grind culture. Health is not solely what we are eating. I'm going to emphasize that it's also more than okay to eat foods that you prefer. That's all. Believe it or not, preference is one of the factors in people choosing processed food. We are fully allowed to eat foods that we like and enjoy. The end, no validation needed. It's quite interesting how we casually refer to food as junk or garbage or use any other word that indicates a lower value. But a processed replacement shake can be a life saving way for someone to get the nutrients and calories they need. That takeout dish called a cheat meal and associated with the need to burn it off at the gym later on is a celebratory food in somebody else's culture and has specific meaning. And that store bought juice or cake was part of a celebration of love for some family. We're not telling you to not juice. We have a juicer. We're not telling you to not make your own soup. I have a machine in here that helps me to do that. But what we are saying is think about how you are looking at processed food overall. We don't just eat food for the nutrient content, and there are various ways to nourish your body. We also have to remember that nourishment of the soul, this is why we call some of our foods soul food, because they are nourishing to the soul and they're connecting you with your culture. We have to remember that nourishment of the soul is equally important. So, we have just completed the chapter Elitism of Health and Wellness. When we come back from our break in the beginning of the year, we'll be back in January, I believe, either the second or third week. You'll hear from us. We'll be on chapter 5, Food Freedom Beyond Just Eat the Cookie. I highly recommend you to get this book. I believe she also has it on Kindle and possibly audio versions. But I think this is a great book, especially for people who are saying, I want to have the right mindset about food, and that's just as important as exercise. That's just as important as what I'm going to be looking at cutting out from my diet. I need to get my mind right about how I think about food in general. Great book. All right. All right. So I want to thank you all for your time and attention today. Let's go ahead and add in. Pastor Ben, I've given you the conversation link already. You should have received it at the top of this broadcast. So if you want to join in, here to listen and learn? Great. Good morning. Can you see and hear me? Can you see
Good
and hear?
morning.
Good
Good
morning.
morning.
Can you see and hear me?
I can see you,
I
but
can
you're
see you, but
frozen.
you're frozen.
Okay, you are not
I can
frozen.
hear
I can
you
hear you
also.
also.
You are not frozen on my end at all. I'm not frozen on my end, and you are not frozen on my end.
Okay. I am going to start with our situation here.
We have a
This is where
situation where
our food is
our food is
compromised.
compromised.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to strip
They're trying to
away
strip
health
away
care,
health care,
which would
which
kind
would
of help you
kind of
stay
help you stay
healthy.
healthy.
They're
They're
deregulating a lot
deregulating
of
a lot of
FDA
FDA
rules,
rules,
Mm-hmm.
and they're
and they're
trying to
trying to
take
take
away
away
insurance.
insurance.
And they're trying to take away food for the vulnerable of our population. And
Yes.
I
Yes.
think, as a matter of fact, they've now changed the rules to, I don't want to misquote it, but I think it has to do with the age that a child can continue to you can continue to receive assistance, food assistance for the child. They're still
Mm-hmm.
underage,
Mm-hmm.
and I think they cut it off at a certain point. I think that's also the same for housing. I think they've changed the specifications on how long you can stay in public housing.
Yeah.
But I'll
Yeah.
Two
look those
Two
up
years.
years.
as you talk, so we can have the accurate data on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
the
the
housing,
housing, if I'm not
mistaken,
mistaken,
they've
they've
changed it.
changed it. They've cut
That
that
down
down
to
to
two
2 years.
years.
Yeah.
If you want it for 2 years, done. And that is retroactive,
Oh.
if I'm understanding correctly. So right
So
now,
right
people
now,
that's
people
been
that's
on it
been
for
on
more
it
than
for
two
more than two
years,
years,
Mm-hmm.
it can
it
end
can
for
end
them
for them
Okay. So I'm reading
with
from the.
with
as
as
little
little
as
as
30
30
day
day
notice.
notice.
Oh wow. So I'm reading from the Baltimore Banner. This is a news site, valid news site, not fake news, right? The article is entitled "Snap Benefits Will Change November 1st. Here's what and who that affects." The article writer is Maddie Matti Gelman, Gellman, and it was published October 29th, 2025. It says, well, they're specifically talking about Maryland, but I want to go down to what they're saying about the program in itself. So let me see. That's on markets. Markets, convenience stores, and eateries that accept SNAP will still be able to do so. Let's see. Okay, here we go. Will kids still get free and reduced cost school meals after November 1st? Yes, they will still get that. Federal changes to SNAP still happening. SNAP programs, work exemptions, and cuts to benefits are still being implemented. In order to participate in the program, veterans, unhoused people, and those aged 64 and younger will need to work at least 20 hours a week to receive benefits. Previously, users that fell into these categories, including over the age of 54, did not need to work that amount of time to receive their monthly food stipend. So now people who, may have retired, may have aged out, may not be in good health, they now have to do more hours of time for work in order to receive SNAP. SNAP participants with children over 14 will also need to meet work requirements. A child over that age is now no longer considered a dependent on the program. So if you have a child that is 15 or 15 to 17, right? Because that's still childhood. They're now saying your benefits are going to be cut to reflect the fact that the government is no longer feeding your 15, 16, 17-year-old child. But again, that feeds right into them wanting teenagers to become a part of the regular workforce, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the USDA shut down a $6 billion, excuse me, contingency fund to keep SNAP benefits flowing, but as we know, they sued to get that flowing again. So yeah, that's what's happening there. And then let me look at HUD housing, um, HUD housing new requirements. Requirements. Okay, what is new? National low income housing. Congress must pass a HUD spending bill to protect vouchers and housing assistance for over 170,000 people who have experienced homelessness. Let's see here. The House bill is set to reduce HUD funding by 2.2 billion dollars from last year, while the Senate bill would increase it by 3.3 over the fiscal year of 25. I'm trying to see. Currently, 2.4 million households receive rental assistance, which serves only 1 in 4 eligible households. The House bill coming for 2026 would result in 181,900 fewer households served. These losses are going to disproportionately impact older adults who are in assisted housing, people with disabilities, and families with children. And I'm trying to see if there's anything else. Proposed changes. Let's see here. This is coming from the inspection group.inc. These are people who look at housing rules and changes. They're going to change HUD Section 8 program, what landlords need to know. It serves as a policy blueprint for right now, but does not yet have the force of law behind it. But we know once these bills get passed, it's going to be a different situation.
Mm-hmm.
So key proposals affecting Section 8. The administration's budget request includes a 44% reduction in funding, amounting to $33.6 billion loss. 40% cut to rental assistance programs such as Section 8, impacting millions of low income households nationwide. Transitioning to state managed block grants. Federal government would replace direct rental assistance with block grants to states, allowing them to design and administer their own housing assistance programs. And we know what's going to happen with that. Because if it goes
Mm-hmm.
back to the states, lots of people are going to face discrimination, which was why the federal government was in charge of it to begin with, because states were discriminating against black and brown people. This shift is going to lead to varying assistance in levels and eligibility criteria across states. We know it's going to become unequal again because they want it to. And like you
Yep.
Yep.
said, the implementation of time limits on assistance. The plan introduces a 2-year cap on rental assistance for able bodied adults. Now, who is defining able bodied? Because you can be able
Right.
bodied and still be disabled.
Mm-hmm.
aiming to encourage self sufficiency. No, this is not about that. Elderly and disabled individuals would be exempt from this time limit. Now, they're saying if you're elderly and you're disabled, you would be exempt from this time limit. But again, who is deciding your able bodiedness? That is the question. And number
Well,
four,
Well, who's going to decide? Because it's retirement again.
right. Elimination of key HUD programs. Budget proposal seeks to eliminate programs such as the Community Development Block Grant and Home Investment Partnerships Program, which have historically supported affordable housing developments and rehabilitation efforts. So you're taking you're taking away the programs that would help people invest in their home, but you say that you are doing this for the betterment of America, right? But you're taking away the programs that would help people better their homes, and you're taking away the programs that would support affordable housing development and rehabilitating developments. But you say this is for the betterment of America.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. What does this mean for landlords? Adjustments to your rent revenue. Larger gaps between market rents and what tenants can cover with assistance. Local control could mean new opportunities and new rules. Shorter assistance terms could increase your turnover of your residents. Navigating fair housing compliance. Changes at the federal level regarding anti discrimination policies can create a patchwork of rules between federal, state, and local levels. Because state may say you can't do X, Y, and Z, and federal may say, hey, you are now free to discriminate, which we know is going on right now.
Mm-hmm.
Shifting tenant demographics, stricter eligibility verification, especially around immigration status, may reduce the number of voucher holding applicants in certain areas. Landlords may need to broaden their outreach strategies or consider mixed income models to maintain occupancy. So these are the things that are coming down the pipeline that are not yet enacted, but once these bills hit, they will be. Now, this was written back in May 9th of 2025, and we know we are right barreling into all of this being policy. So it's a lot. It's a lot to think about. Um, Again, lots of things are going to be impacted. Going back to food, when you have lots of abandoned spaces, when you have lots of abandoned buildings, guess what? Because I asked the grocers about this. Um, I asked why certain stores would not come to our community at first. And they said they look at the revenue that the community brings in, they look at the average annual salary of your community demographics. And if they feel like your community cannot maintain keeping their store open, right, with a certain number of dollars coming in and being spent in their store, they're not coming to your community. That's why my community has six choices of grocery stores, and somebody else's community has one or two, because they're looking at what is the revenue, what is the average salary and revenue of a person living in this community coming in. Same thing with restaurants. I asked Cheesecake Factory back when they were booming and popular why they wouldn't come to a certain area. I was like, why will Cheesecake Factory not come here? And it was the same thing. They said your demographics in your community don't make enough to sustain our restaurant being in your community. What do you think about that, Pastor Ben?
Hmm. Sounds like they kind of had this in
Had this in
plan
plan
not the restaurants, but the government when they did redlining
Mm-hmm.
because they knew this. And what does that do? That cut down jobs in the neighborhood,
Mm-hmm.
which means that the neighborhood now has to take their money. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Uh,
So then it becomes a cycle and a loop because we are
yeah.
upset and we're fussing at black people saying, why are y'all taking y'all money out of the community? Right? But they're literally
Mm-hmm.
telling you we're not bringing our business to your community. And then
Mm-hmm.
and then with
Mm-hmm.
Cheesecake Factory, I said you do know that logic is ludicrous, right? Because if people really like your food and you especially come to the community, they're gonna support you.
Mm-hmm.
They will
Mm-hmm.
budget you in to come eat at your restaurant if they really like your food. So I could not understand that with the Cheesecake Factory. But then again, here they are shutting down lots of their businesses all across the nation. And I said, I think that what they did not factor in is that black people are the people who spend their money.
Exactly. $1.8 trillion per year.
Dollars per
And
year.
black people in particular love Cheesecake Factory. But guess what? If you decide
90% of them they were black.
if you decide you're not going to bring one to our community, or the service starts being a little off and shady, which I noticed for a lot of Cheesecake Factories, that's why I stopped going, because we just were not getting the level of service with our servers that we wanted. Then yeah, your business is gonna fall off because you're thinking, oh, because we're in this quote unquote better community set up, that it's that community that's buying your food. But it actually wasn't. It was black people leaving their community to come spend money at the Cheesecake Factory. And now that black people are saying, "Oh, we gonna be keeping our money in our pockets. We're gonna go more to our black-owned restaurants in our community. We gonna hit up our Trinidadian cuisine, our Jamaican cuisine, the Indian cuisine,
Mm-hmm.
the Chinese cuisine, and we gonna leave some of these American chains alone, the Jamaican cuisine, and we gonna leave some of these chain restaurants alone." Um, I was just thinking about that yesterday. I said, I can't. I could probably pinpoint the last time I was in a Olive Garden. It was probably about 2015. Why? Poor service. So Olive Garden has been off my list for a very long time. Same thing with TGI Friday. I don't think I've been in a TGI Friday since about 2016 or 2017. Why? Poor service. Anytime you start acting funny with serving me, you off my list.
Yeah.
And I don't make no big announcements about it. I don't go to social media and say I'm boycotting da 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 da. I just do it, and you just won't get my dollars. But right now,
Mm-hmm.
because there is such a emphasis and a resurgence on supporting your own, these companies better wake up and realize it's been black people holding your companies together,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
because we are the ones who spend the most. And that is in spite of not being
Mm-hmm.
paid the most. We still spend. So, um, the people who think, and Target is a good example of that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The people who think black people don't matter, they getting a good dose of, yes, they do.
Mm-hmm.
And again,
Definitely.
black people aren't out here all rah rah sis boom bah. You don't, when you scroll down your timeline, you don't see black people with, these outward sort of how somebody falls out of favor with some. You don't see black people online doing demonstrative things when it comes to Target, meaning they're not going out to the store and tearing up stuff, right? You don't see people taking Target products and doing a bonfire or setting stuff on fire to say, I'm done with Target. Like none of that. You
No.
don't see it, but you're feeling it in your pocket.
We just don't show up.
We just don't show up. That's it. We be like, okay, you don't like us no more? Bet. And that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And when black people are done with you,
Oh, it's over.
Oh, it's over.
when black people decide that they have had enough with your good, your service, your product, whatever it is, you might as well pack it up. Because short of a miracle, you're not going to get that loyalty back in the way that it was. And then, still talking about Target, and then you have the nerve to take the name that black women gave Target and try to put a campaign out around it while ignoring the black women. Talking about they trying to get back the
Tarjay.
Tarjay, huh?
Target flavor of the company. I said, how you gonna get that back?
You can't.
You
Not
can't.
without
Not
black
without
folk.
black folk.
I said, in all of y'all advertising, we have never heard y'all use Target. But what does that tell you? That tells you that somebody in their marketing department who is still black, who's still in there,
Mm-hmm.
has said black women have been riding or dying with Target. Black women were the ones
Mm-hmm.
calling y'all Target. So now all of a
Mm-hmm.
sudden you want to pick up on that phraseology to try to let black people know, hey, we back. And black people aren't buying it.
Like we can't see.
As a matter of fact, it's making some people matter that after all of this stuff, you have the nerve to pick up the phraseology that black people were using.
Mm-hmm. See, that
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 would be
would
the
be the
same
same
for
for
B.
B.
That
That
would be
would
the
be the
same
same
for
for
BK,
BK, Mickey D's,
Mm-hmm.
Wally
Wally World.
World.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Black
black
folks
folks
gave
gave
them
them
those
those
names.
names.
Yep.
At
At
least
least
BK
BK
started
started
using
using
BK
BK
without
without
turning on
turning
black
on
folk.
black folk.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And so again, you have this, and I think somebody said it last night, but they were talking about it in terms of politics. And I know we have to go here in just a minute. They said you want black votes, but you don't want black politicians. You want black votes, but you don't want to listen to black women lead. This is a whole problem.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but back to our first, our former conversation as we close out. As you go through the holidays, don't let anybody shame you about the kind of food you are eating. Okay, all of us, as she pointed out, all of us, according to the classifications, are in some way, shape, or form eating a measure of processed food. The goal is to make sure you have a balance of what you're eating. The goal is not to overdo it on processed foods. The goal is to eat with your body in mind. The goal is to do what you need to do to get nutrients into your body. Okay. So, wherever you are in the country, I want you to think realistically about what you have access to food wise, transportation wise, grocery store wise, or not, and then begin to start planning accordingly. Okay? Because as I
Mm-hmm.
said, I know what it's like to be in a rural area and need a car to get to where you got to go. And it is more than 1, 2, 3 miles away to get to that space to get your food. I know what that is like. And the fact of how much you've got to buy, how long it's got to last you, when you're going to be able to get back to that space and place again, all of that, people have to take those things into consideration. And so I have learned in my own life, through my own experiences, to stop judging people for their food choices. Stop looking at people with disdain, thinking, oh, they just don't take care of their bodies. They don't want to be healthy. You know how we get on our high horse about stuff. Stop judging people in that area, in that regard. And ask some bigger questions. And this has been my mantra for a decade now, just about. If I can't help, if I cannot help, if I cannot intervene, if I cannot offer the resource, if I can't point someone in the direction of the resource, I need to be quiet. And so I've learned to tell myself that. Be quiet, Shante. Be quiet. On this, you need to keep your opinion to yourself. Think about it, notate it, but you don't need to go on a rant to that person or a soapbox to that person about it. If you cannot help, if you cannot facilitate the healing, don't add harm and don't resort to shaming people, especially if you can't intervene and help them change it.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we just got to rebuke ourselves and say, be quiet.
Yeah.
Final thoughts.
Eh, Do you? That's the bottom line. Be happy. Because one thing about food, if you don't enjoy it, it's really not going to do you much good. Really. I mean, when you were talking about when you were talking about eating, like, what's the word I want to use? Um,
Your food being connected to
Basically,
your
your
soul.
demographic. Huh?
Your food being connected to your soul.
Yeah, food being connected to your soul. Yes, that's it. Uh, when food is connected to your soul, you're enjoying it. If it's not, you're not really going to enjoy it. And we know that laughter is good for the soul. Joy is healthy. Bitterness is not.
Mm-hmm.
So enjoy yourself. So enjoy everybody else. Just be happy.
Enjoy what you're eating. And I mean, again, most doctors usually end their conversation with everything in moderation. Everything in moderation. So just keep that in mind over the holidays. Don't be sitting there um, with a face like a prune, wondering and looking at people side eye when you see people going for the sweet potato pie, but you holding yourself back from the sweet potato pie. Let those people enjoy their slice of sweet potato pie. Let them be happy.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to sit up there with your lips all twisted up because you don't want to eat the slice of sweet potato pie, because you have convinced yourself that you don't, that sweet potato pie is evil, That's on you. Okay? That's on you. Trying to help some of y'all for the holidays. But as people are eating a slice of sweet potato pie, do not pull out no notebook and start lecturing people while they eating they sweet potato pie. Do not be talking about, well, actually, do you know that it contains da 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 da? Listen, don't do that. Don't do that this holiday season. Let people enjoy their treat. Okay? All right. Never say I ain't tell you nothing to help you for the holidays. Pastor Ben, it's been a pleasure. I thank you for joining us all this year. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule, out of your work schedule. I know as an entrepreneur, time is money for you always. And so we do thank you for tuning in, coming, sharing with us these hours that you have shared with us over the year and over the years. And so I want to give you the opportunity to do some final word sign offs here as we get ready to close.
Uh, Light is the most daring opposition to darkness. Hey,
Hey,
and I'm gonna
I'm
add
gonna add
this.
this.
I'm gonna
I'm
add
gonna add
this.
this.
Light
Light
brings
brings
joy,
joy,
also
also
blessing.
blessing.
So be
So
light
be
and be
light and be
blessed.
blessed.
We'll take that. This is us signing out. We hope to see you back in the coming year. Remember, we will continue to have Sunday dialogue through the end of the year. You're welcome to come and share with us for the last few Sundays of 2025 at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Take care, everyone. Be well. As Pastor Ben said, be in joy and be light.